Hey, this is Rabbi Lewis wishing you an early Shabbat shalom. I'm here in Lodz, or actually, as the locals pronounce it here, it's more like Woj, in the Jewish cemetery, established here in the 1890s, and also where many of the people who died in the Lodz or Woj ghetto have been buried. But it's also still in use, have people buried up to recent days as well as an active Jewish cemetery. And Jen and I just came here and placed a stone on the grave of her relative, Sura Goldfarb, to say Kaddish, and we recited El Malei Rachamim as well. And I will add a little bit more to this later because we need to keep walking back to the entrance of the cemetery. But I wanted to share a little bit of this moment with you before I talk about the Torah portion. And these are basically pre-war graves. It's almost miraculous that it survived the war, that it's still here.
It survived the war. So every problem people a video on the telephone.
This whole experience has been humbling isn't even a proper word. Moving isn't a proper word. It's just everything. Emotion layered on top of emotion, almost like you have here history layered on top of history. There's joy with sadness over it, with more sadness over it, with joy over it again. Life is multi-layered. Places are multi-layered. The country of Poland is multi-layered. There's just so much to discover here. And I think I said last week that this was the center of the Jewish world for a good period of time, intellectually, religiously, and just from a population standpoint. It's pretty incredible. And to be here in Lodz, where one of the most well-known ghettos outside of Warsaw was located, and also here at this incredible cemetery with where my wife's family connections are, has been amazing. So anyway, coming back to the Torah portion, or getting to the Torah portion this week, it's PARASHAT Pinchas, and I do think there are some lessons here pertinent to the experience of Europe during the war, and perhaps pertinent to our experience just living in the world today. We have two different types of rebellion happening in this week's Torah portion, PARASHAT Pinchas. In one, you have a terrible plague that's happening, and it's discovered by one very pious member of the priestly caste, Pinchas, that it's because the Israelite men are having relations with the Moabite women. And what does he do? He catches one in the act, stabs them both through the gut, and kills them, and thus causes the plague to stop. Now, I don't like the method, of course. I don't like the way it's handled. There's certainly better ways to handle things. But we're taught in the Torah that this actually has a good result. So one way of doing it, I actually look at this as saying this is a response to crisis in the moment. When things become overwhelming, you have to take, or he did take, a bold action to stop it. We have another example, which may be, I think, the better possibility, when we have the daughters of Zelophehad, who see injustice about women not being permitted to marry, not being permitted to inherit their father's fortune, and they go to Moses, and God actually says that their plea is right and just, and the change that they make isn't just in the moment, it's a generational change. It'll affect every generation after them because they took a stand. And I think, responding in the moment to a crisis versus doing something early to affect a generational and long-standing change is something that I can't say I have a prescription for, but something to think about. In Poland in 1939 and after, until the end of the war in 45, people often ask, well, why didn't people do more? And some did. Why didn't the Jewish community fight back more? And some did. But when there was action taken, it was trying to respond to a crisis that people were in the middle of. And at that point, so much damage was already set. It was like a keg of dynamite with a fuse lit that was about to explode and did explode. And there was only so much you could do to mitigate the damage. But if we look back at the causes, with hate festering across Germany and Europe against the Jews for centuries, and it culminated in the Holocaust. That once it was a crisis mode, it was virtually impossible to fully stop once it really hit its full speed. However, if people had fought against this earlier, had stood up and said this was wrong, had educated people better, had not tried to oppress and overpower others, then we would have effected generational change. There would have been a protest early that would have stopped things, that would have kept it from reaching the crisis mode. And instead of asking why didn't people respond to the crisis, better question is perhaps ask why didn't people do more to prevent the things that led to the crisis. It's a question that I think is important for Europe in the 30s and 40s. It's a question I think it's important for all of us in 2025. Anyhow, I can't wait to share more about this remarkable journey that I shared with other members of our Chattanooga community, with all of you, and I wish you all a Shabbat shalom.
Weil unsere Zures will nehmen an Eck, als Gott wird geben, will mir der Leben, will mir alle Jiden, kann Eretz Yisroel weg. To sing mein Fidale, spiel mein Fidale, wie verehrt hat nicht gespielt keiner. Und sing mir zu a scheinen Goles Lied mit a Bänkschaft a Reine.